basic numeracy, which appears on CSAT, is very different from the kind of mathematics that you've learned back in your school days or in your college days. Students broadly fall into two categories. Students who think they are good at mathematics, so they will be able to ace basic numeracy on CSAT, and another group of students who think that they are weak in mathematics and they have a phobia for mathematics, as a result of which they will not fare well in case of basic numeracy on CSAT. But let's clear a few things about the mathematics that you've studied back in school, which is actually very different from basic numeracy. If you look at the mathematics which has been taught to you back in your school days, then school or college level maths, its basic focus is upon understanding of concepts. And you get marks for following a certain procedure and a certain number of steps which your teacher has taught you. If you miss a single step, if you take a shortcut, then you do not get half the marks for those questions. And you get half the marks for obtaining a correct answer which is right up to 4 points of decimals. Questions do not have confusing or tricky language. Questions normally have pretty direct language in case of school examinations, even if the question is a difficult question. So difficult questions basically test you for difficult concepts, they will test you for difficult formulas, and there will be difficult, complicated and many calculations in case of these questions. On the other hand, if you look at basic numeracy which appears on CSAT, UPSC, then it's a completely different subject. In case of basic numeracy, you have to focus upon choosing the right answer in a less amount of time, and you get marks only for one thing, picking the right answer in a short amount of time, and there are no marks which are given for following a certain procedure or following a certain number of steps according to instructions as such. Questions do not have direct language, they do not have clear language. Instead, questions will have confusing or tricky language inside them, as a result of which difficult questions will actually test you for easy concepts, easy formulas, and will have less number of calculations. On the other hand, difficult questions will always have difficult and confusing language inside them. Rather, the language of the question, the language of the answer choices will be such that it is going to encourage you to make more and more number of silly mistakes. And that accuracy, that efficiency of attempting questions in a shorter duration of time is what gets tested here. So the questions language and what really gets tested in case of basic numeracy for CSAT is very different from the kind of questions and what really gets tested in case of school level mathematics as such. So we're going to pick up a small topic from arithmetic, mixtures and allegations to drive home this particular point. Please read this question. I want you to pause the video in case you're watching this online and spend about 3 to 4 minutes solving this particular question. Pause the video at this particular stage, take out your pen and paper and try solving this question yourself. Pause the video. Okay. So let's start. I'll read out the question once to you because that's very important. It says we have got two mixtures of milk and water, where the first mixture contains 40% milk and rest of the 60% is water in that mixture, and another one which contains 75% milk and rest of the 25% is water. These two mixtures are mixed together to create a third mixture, and this third mixture is known to contain 60% milk and rest 40% is water. Now the question says, find the ratio of volume of the first to the second mixture used to make the third mixture. When you go about solving this question, then remember we've got two mixtures of milk and water. If I look at the first mixture, it has got 40% milk and 60% water. The second mixture, on the other hand, it has got 75% milk and 25% water. Both of these mixtures are brought together in order to create a third mixture which ends up having 60% milk and 40% water. Remember, the volumes of the first mixture and second mixture are not given, volume of the third mixture is not given, and you have to find out the volume of the first mixture with respect to the second one. So the real question out here is that you have to calculate out the ratio of volume of the first to the second mixture used to get a third mixture. In order to solve this particular question, our schools teach us a particular method. This is called as a weighted average method, and in the weighted average method, we first of all assume that the volume of the first mixture is X and volume of the second mixture is Y. Once we have done it, then you can see that if the volume of the first mixture is X and the volume of the second mixture is Y, then the amount of milk in the first mixture is equal to 40% of X, and the volume of milk in the second mixture is equal to 75% of Y. So, volume of milk in the first mixture is equal to 40% of X, which turns out to be 0.4X. And if I look at the volume of milk in the second mixture, then that is 75% of Y, which turns out to be 0.75Y. Once I have done this, now I need to look at volume of milk with respect to the whole solution. Then it is 60%. And this 60% milk upon the total mixture is actually equal to this plus this divided by the volume of this third mixture. And the volume of the third mixture is actually X plus Y. As a result, I end up getting this particular equation, that the ratio of milk in the resultant mixture which will be equal to total volume of milk, which is how much? 0.4X plus 0.75Y, and total volume of this mixture will be X plus Y. So we end up getting this equation, and this will be equal to 60 upon 100, or simply it is equal to 0.6. I can pick up this denominator and move it towards the right hand side and multiply it by 0.6. So I will end up getting this equation. 0.4x plus 0.75y is equal to 0.6 multiplied by x plus y. So this is something which we obtained by multiplying this figure by this. Now, once we got this equation, I simplify it further and I end up getting 0.2x is equal to 0.15y, which on further simplification ends up giving you x upon y is equal to 3 by 4, and 3 by 4 is your right answer here in case of this particular question. Now you can look at one more thing in case of this particular question. In this question, this is the method which has been taught to us back in our school days. This whole method is pretty complicated. It has several steps of calculation. At every step of calculation, there is a chance of you getting confused and writing down something which you do not figure out at a later stage, which means every step of calculation is an invitation for you to make a mistake. There is a chance of you making a mistake. If there are several steps of calculation involved, that would mean there are greater chances of you making a mistake upon calculation of the answer for this particular question. So how many things can you get mixed up with, or in terms of confusion? You can get confused at this particular stage, one. You can get confused in making this particular equation, second. You can get confused while doing this calculation, or this calculation. So there are 5 situations where you can end up making a mistake. This is the schoolish method. But apart from this particular method which is taught to us back in our school, which makes this kind of a question more difficult for us, CSAT requires you to attempt this particular question in a faster manner. And you need to ensure accuracy also. And you're going to need to do it in a smaller amount of time also. So let's look at another way of handling the same question. Whenever we get this kind of a question, the first step which we will take is that we are going to use something which is called as the allegation method. Allegation method is a smart way of doing this question. It's a strategy for doing this particular question. In the allegation method, the first step which we will take is that we develop a certain diagram. We make a square. In this square, we write down the percentage of milk picked up from here. So we write 40 here. We write this figure, the percentage of milk in the second mixture, here. As a result, I get 75 written here. And then we write this 60, which is percentage of milk in case of the third mixture, right in the middle. And now we look at the diagonal difference of 40 and 60, and 60 minus 40 is equal to 20. On the other hand, the difference of 75 and 60 is equal to 15, which we write here. So we end up getting a ratio of 15 and 20 of the first mixture with respect to the second mixture. And on simplification of this ratio of 15 is to 20, we end up getting 3 by 4. This is the answer. This is a single step calculation. and you will not make a mistake in calculating 15 by 20 is equal to 3 by 4. There is no extra number of calculations involved here. There are no too many steps involved here, and things are pretty simple. And you can learn this method very easily also. This is called as the allegation method. So in order to solve a question of basic numeracy, for almost every question type, you possibly need to learn the real strategy for that question which is expected out of you, and the allegation approach is the strategy to be used in case of this kind of a question. This is the difference between preparing for basic numeracy and preparing mathematics the way it has been taught to us back in our school days. Now, you have a choice between using this longish method which has 5 steps and more chances of you making a mistake, or using this procedure which is a single step procedure. It does not have any complication, there are no chances of you making a mistake. This is the right method of doing this question type, I would say. So let's attend one more question of the same type just for the sake of practice. It says 2 varieties of rice costing 12 rupees per kg and 19 rupees per kg are mixed to create a new variety costing rupees 15 per kg. What is the ratio in which the 2 varieties are mixed? Pause the video at this particular stage, attempt this question yourself. It is pretty easy now for you. You just have to repeat whatever I did in case of the previous question. Okay, let's start. When we solve this question by the allegation method, as a first step we make this square. After making the square, we write down this 12 and 19 on top. 12 here, 19 here. Once I've done that, then we look at the third variety which costs 15 rupees per kg. I write 15 here. And now I look at the diagonal difference between 15 and 12. 15 minus 12 is equal to 3, and difference between 19 and 15 is equal to 4. So I end up getting the ratio 4 by 3 in this particular case. And this is something which gives us the answer, which is option C. But you also need to understand the limitations of every strategy. So if you look at it, this rule of allegation is found to be more useful when you have to calculate the ratio of weights, or you have to calculate the ratio of volumes of the initial 2 mixtures. For example, you can have a milk and water mixture, or you can have a water and alcohol mixture. In order to find the ratio in which the 2 mixtures were used, the rule of allegation is very useful. But this particular method has its limitations. You cannot use it everywhere indiscriminately. And if you are given the ratio of volumes and you're asked to find the resultant milk or water concentration, then this method is not to be used. Instead, you'll have to go in for using the weighted average formula in order to get your answer. You should not use the rule of allegations in this particular condition. So, if I look at this particular question, same question, when I do it by the weighted average method, then the milk percentage in the resultant mixture would be equal to 40 multiplied by 3 plus 75 into 4. It has these values which I am talking about, and then I have 3 upon 4, 3 plus 4, I simplify it further, 120 plus 300 upon 7, and we end up getting 60% as the answer in case of this case. If I solve this question by this method, then this ratio, these 4 figures are given here. This is what is missing here. In case of this question, when the middle part is missing, then we should avoid the allegation method. So if I have a 3:4 ratio, I'll have to work out several permutation and combination in order to get the desired ratio out here as a first step. So if I look at permutation and combinations of other ratios, then if I put a 15:20 here, then yes, I can end up finding a 60 as the answer. But this may have worked in case of this particular question. It will not work in a lot of other questions. There things may get more complicated. So let's look at this particular question. Try doing it by the allegation method and then try doing it by the weighted average method. You know both the methods now. Take 2-3 minutes to do this. A grocer mixes 28 kgs of tea costing rupees 620 per kg with 12 kg tea costing rupees 840. Find the cost of the resultant mixture per kg. So it is asking for the middle value. And remember, middle value is something which should not be calculated using the allegation method. Pause the video at this particular stage, try doing it yourself. Okay, let's look at the solution. If I use the allegation method here and I write 6.2 and 8.4, the figures picked up from here on top. And then I put the ratios at the bottom, 28 and 12. And I need to know the middle value, which is the cost of resultant mixture per kg. Then I have a problem in getting a figure here, which is consistent. But the same question, when I solve it by the weighted average method, then the cost of mixture per kg is equal to 28 into 6.2. So how did I get this 28 by 6.2? 28 kilograms of tea which costs 6.2 kg plus 12 kgs of tea costing 8.4 per kg. So I've written that here, added both of them, and the total tea out here is 12 plus 28. I simplify it further, and after simplification I end up getting the value of 6.86. So the cost of the resultant mixture per kg will be rupees 6.86. So this method works if I don't have the middle value. If I have the top three values along with the middle value, then the allegation method works. This is the limitation of the strategy. So let's attempt this question now and see which method would work here. Pause the video. It says, in what proportion must a grocer mix tea at rupees 1.02 per kg and rupees 1.44 per kg so as to make a mixture worth rupees 1.26 per kg. Pause the video, attempt it yourself. Okay, let's start. In this particular question, when I make the square by the allegation method, I will end up writing down 1.02 and 1.44 per kg on top. And the mixture, final mixture is worth rupees 1.26 per kg. That is going to come here. And because I have got the top three values along with the middle value, that means allegation method can be used here. So difference between 1.26 and 1.02 is equal to 0.24. And the difference between 1.44 and 1.26 is equal to 0.18. This is the ratio that we are looking at. So ratio of weights will be 0.18 upon 0.24, which comes out to be 3:4 finally. That's the final ratio that we are looking at. It's a quick, nice, clean method of solving this kind of a question. Let's do one last question. The question says a merchant has 50 kgs of sugar, part of which he sells at 8% gain and the rest at 18% gain. He gains 14% on the whole. Find the quantity sold at 18% profit. Pause the video, attempt it yourself, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, let's start. When we solve this question by the allegation method, then I will have to write 8% and 18% on top. If he is finally gaining 14% on the whole, then 14 has to come here. Difference between 8 and 14 will come here. 14 minus 8 is equal to 6 and 18 minus 14 is equal to 4. So I end up getting a ratio of 4:6. I will have to simplify it further, and when I simplify 4:6 further, I end up getting 2:3. That's the answer. The point which I am trying to make out here is that basic numeracy is not the same as mathematics that you've done back in your school days. Basic numeracy is an entirely different subject, where the focus is upon solving a question faster with a greater amount of accuracy by a particular method where you do not end up making a mistake, where there is no chance of you making a mistake. This is what we have to learn in case of basic numeracy. We don't have to polish up our school level mathematics. School level mathematics is much more difficult. Conceptually it is more difficult, but it is still direct. It does not confuse you, it does not trick you. Basic numeracy is comparatively easy, but it is confusing and it is bent upon confusing you further, tricking you further. We'll keep on learning more things similar to this one.